And so I then worked with a bunch of different organizations over the next couple of years that are doing really incredible work in the anti-trafficking sphere. And I saw that the overwhelming gap was on the long-term recovery side.
Okay.
So there's a lot of organizations that are rescuing and doing incredible prevention work, but I saw that another kind of injustice within the injustice was that the people doing the long-term recovery work were often nationals that didn't have access to resources. And so it was through seeing that we really realized, hey, like those people need an ally. Those people need somebody to come alongside of them and not tell them what to do or how to do it, because they understand the culture and context.
Hey there, thanks for joining me on another episode of the Justice Matters podcast. Today, our guest is Randy Watson, and Randy is the Executive Director and founder of Ally Global Foundation. And this is a non-profit based out of Canada, and it provides funding and programs to support women and children that have been rescued from human trafficking or abusive situations. In this podcast, we talk about a really exciting new project they got coming out. It's a documentary film called The 12,000. Again, you'll learn more about that in this episode. And as with all the guests that I have on season 1 of this podcast, Randy has become a really good friend. And as we talk and chat about the challenges we both face in starting foundations and charities, I hope you will learn and be inspired too that you can actually do it. You can make a difference with whatever you've got in your hand, whatever is set before you. Thanks again for joining me. Randy Watson, so good to see your face again. It's been a minute, and it looks like time has served you well. You're looking fresh and good, and you've been up to a few new adventures since I've last talked with you. But I really appreciate you jumping on this podcast today.
Yeah, really grateful to be here.
Awesome. Well, as with a couple of the guests on my podcast, we met for the first time. Was it in Iraq? No, we met, thinking back, I thought we met in Iraq, but actually we met in San Diego at the Love Does office with Bob Goff. And we were dreaming up a plan to build a hospital in Iraq where we were living at the time, and that dream of ours became a reality. And that's not the first hospital you've built around the world, or you've been involved in raising funds to build. Where else did you manage to build? Yeah,
we've had that was such an incredible experience. I'm getting to meet you and to go through that process with the Love Does team. But yeah, we've been able to, or I've been able to be involved in a bunch of teams building hospitals and schools all over Uganda, the one in Iraq, India, Haiti, and we're just working on some projects right now in Nepal, Cambodia, and Laos.
Just a few, man. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. And I look back at that time we got to chat and just get to know you. I remember I don't know if it was breakfast or lunch now, but it was a pretty nice. It must have been lunch because it was Mexican. Just chatting through your journey. Man, I was inspired. I mean, I kind of grew up myself within kind of church and non-profit kind of work my whole life, but you kind of gave up a pretty lucrative for-profit career. And when I heard your story of kind of the convictions and that led to that, I was truly just humbled just hearing that story. Would love to chat a bit about what that kind of journey's been a bit like for you. One of the things I kind of love to ask, my guests when I first start the podcast is really getting you to kind of think back to maybe where it all began for you. Can you think of a moment in time where this issue of justice or this idea of fighting for the oppressed and orienting your life towards serving those that are vulnerable and needy around us. Where did that all begin for you? Can you think of a moment, a time?
Yeah, I think there's a couple moments for me. I grew up on the far west coast of Canada on Vancouver Island, and in a small city. I'm a small town kid, and spent a lot of my childhood kind of under the poverty line. And so I was exposed to a lot growing up, situations of abuse and neglect. But for me, something really clicked. I was 15, and it was the first time I'd ever traveled outside of my country, and actually went to LA, to inner city area, to help with a feeding program with a group from the church that I had just started attending. And it was my first time really seeing like vulnerable community and people that had been kind of passed by or experienced different hardship. And there was this man who I just remember he was this massive, like, jacked dude. And he's sitting on the side of this fountain, and he says, "Hey son, come over here." And I sat down beside him, and he went on to just explain how he had this really incredible career as a boxer, and had lost everything and just succumbed to different addiction. And he just said, "Whatever you do, please see people like me." And yeah, I've been thinking of that now. Like, it's been like a guttural shift for me since I was a teenager, and it took me some years to mature into that, I think, and to ask the right questions. But that was a really pivotal point for me in starting to just have my eyes open to the people around me that I needed to see. And I think even growing up in the circumstance I did, I don't think I was aware necessarily of the people that I should have been aware of. Yeah.
What does it mean to see people like him? Whatever you do, I could imagine hearing that statement. Whatever you do in your life, make sure you see people like me. Even in that statement, what is that? Can you elaborate on really how that impacted you? What did that really make
I think
want to do?
I think it changed my posture for sure in wanting to see people that were marginalized in society that shouldn't be. For some reason, we marginalize them as society. And so, so it made me more aware. And I think as I started to become aware of different issues of injustice, it made me lean into those and try to understand more. And I'm very much still in the process of trying to understand a lot of things. But along that journey, I was kind of introduced or heard about the issue of human trafficking and the exploitation of people. And that was something that really ended up like digging its hooks in my heart, and really has shifted my life over the last 15 years.
So this is obviously now you're the founder of Ally Global Foundation, which focuses on human trafficking. But this isn't just a new kind of initiative for you. This is kind of stems back quite some time. What was your first introduction then into human trafficking and your what's become really the whole focus of your work and life now?
Yeah, I was first introduced through actually another organization that many people are familiar with, IJM. I had heard somebody speak about the issue, and so that was my introduction to it. And
that's International Justice Mission, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And so I started looking into other organizations that were doing work and figuring out how I could be involved, where I could volunteer, but ultimately like trying to learn and understand the complexities more. I ended up going into for-profit, into construction, land development, and building a company. And part of the mission of that company was to always seed profits into works of justice. And so, if I'm honest, I think I initially tried to go the easy route of just figuring out how I could fund and support things and
Okay.
volunteer a little bit,
Yeah.
but not fully commit to the things that I think were really weighing on my heart.
Mm.
And so I did that for a decade.
Wow.
I was involved in projects at arm's length, funding, growing a business that was successful, but never really sunk my teeth into the work that I truly felt that I should be doing.
Mm.
And there was an earthquake that hit Nepal in 2015.
Yep.
And I received a call from a dear friend and mentor that said, hey, you need to come out here and help out and bring some guys and money and help with rebuilding. And so I did that, and we ended up being hosted by a safe home that helps kids that have come out of trafficking recover. Which, if you can imagine, coming out of the airport, I got a team of 15 trades guys with me, kind of gruff guys, and we get billeted in this home that's taking care of girls from the ages of 4 to 20.
No way. Oh man.
So we arrived at this house at midnight, and all of these girls had waited up for us to greet us. Okay. And they had moved out of their bedroom to give us a place to stay. And so that was, I had different exposures to people that had gone through trauma, but this was like really up close. And for me, it was the first time I saw this incredible hope and redemption. And like, these kids were joyful, and it didn't make sense after what they had gone through. And so that was really that was the turning point for me for everything. I realized that I needed to commit fully to that work. And that would mean some really significant shifts over the next couple of years in order to posture my life that way, and to actually seek out justice and actually understand those injustices better.
Wow, man. How did that make you feel walking in and they've given up their bedroom for you? Oh, that would be humbling, man.
Yeah, it was, I could recall a lot of emotion. I felt, at first I felt uncomfortable because I didn't even know where I was. I just walked into this room, and there's like stacks of little girls' clothes and stuffed animals. I didn't realize the context of this house, like what it was at first. Wow. I just, hey, you're getting billeted in this house, was all I knew. And then the pieces started to click, and I was just, I was overwhelmingly grateful and humbled in the hospitality that these people were willing to give. Forever changed my posture, I think. And I've been learning from them since. I've become much more involved there, and that's what I do every day. Is work with that same group.
Really? Okay. So
yeah,
I've kind of followed the journey of Ally a little bit, which is the nonprofit that you've started a year or so ago now, and I see your Insta stories of Nepal, and you're working on some other projects that would be great to get into about that. But that's the fact that it's that same community it's pretty special. So let's talk a bit about Ally now. So obviously 2015, you've got this moment where it's like, no, this is more clarity into what I need to do and where I need to go, and focus my energies on. How did that all come about? What, maybe you could give us the elevator pitch or the summary of really what Ally Global does. I know people can learn more about from your website, but let's hear a bit more about how that got off the ground.
Yeah. I think in 2015, when 2015 happened and I was exposed to things, it pushed me further into wanting to understand the issue more. And so I then worked with a bunch of different organizations over the next couple of years that are doing really incredible work in the anti-trafficking sphere. And I saw that the overwhelming gap was on the long-term recovery side. Okay. So there's a lot of organizations that are rescuing and doing incredible prevention work, but I saw that another kind of injustice within the injustice was that the people doing the long-term recovery work were often nationals that didn't have access to resources. And so it was through seeing that we really realized, hey, like those people need an ally. Those people need somebody to come alongside of them and not tell them what to do or how to do it, because they understand the culture and context. But they need support, and they need to have their capacity increased. And so that's how Ally was really birthed from my level. And and so that's what we do. We exist to provide long-term education and safe homes and vocational training so that we can see kids through their recovery journey. Yeah. And there's all sorts of things that come out of that are peripheral, but that's really the core elements that we focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love that you've kind of found your niche, your kind of focus. I've interviewed a good friend of mine who started wanting to address the whole issue of human trafficking, and he started a social enterprise to provide income and jobs and support for those that could, because he realized, hey, like the reason they get into it in the first place is because a lot of the time because they're in vulnerable poverty situations. So if he can provide for them, and the way that they can, find that future out is through jobs and through being able to become independent and support themselves. So he went that route. I love that. And then there's other organizations that might focus more on prevention and awareness. I love that you've kind of narrowed down what you're about. How does a guy like you, though, start something like? I mean, most people that might be listening was like, "Well, I'd love to just start an NGO. That would be great." And like, yeah, I mean, is there any secret sauce to like getting out there and starting something? I mean, what does it actually really take, and what did it kind of take for you to get to where you've got now?
Yeah, I wish there was a secret sauce that I could share. Because we need more people.
Everyone needs the secret sauce. Yeah. No, it's true. We sure do.
For me, it was, faith is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I think my faith is really simple. And I'm just a firm believer in compassion and seeking after justice. And so I've tried to posture my life after those things, but I realized that I hadn't fully leaned into that, I think. And it got to the point where I had built these relationships and I saw the need, and I was trying to find somebody else to execute on it.
Right.
Like I was trying to be like, okay, what other organization can do this? Who else could help here?
Sure.
And it got to the point where I realized, there's actually nobody within my sphere or specifically in Canada that's tackling this. And charity in Canada is obviously, it's in each country, it looks a little different how you set things up.
Sure.
But for us, I realized that, hey, there's a significant gap here, and I can keep talking about it or keep looking for somebody else to step in. But ultimately, I realized that I needed to. And what that looked like was stepping down from my job and committing the time first. I know this might not be the practical way for everybody, but for me and for my wife, it was like, hey, let's go all in. And we didn't have salaries. We didn't have some capital funder. We didn't have all of these systems in place. But I realized that I had been trying to do too many different things, kind of like off the side of my desk with business, or kind of being like 50-50 in different categories now. And so I wanted to be 100% in. So that's what we did. And that was just over a year ago. And to think what's happened since then is really miraculous. Like, we've worked really hard, but I'd say there's been people that have got behind the vision. There's been clarity of vision, and ultimately, I think we've seen God open doors that I don't know how else would have opened.
Yeah.
I spent the first 3 or 4 months just setting up structures and systems and dealing with
Yeah.
the framework to get the charity running.
Sure.
And then I was approached by a friend that said, "Hey, this is ridiculous. Like, you can't work this hard for nothing. We're going to add you to our payroll."
What? Wow.
And then it's been that story times 100 over the last year.
Yeah.
Of people seeing the need and seeing the efforts and the work of now a team of people, and wanting to get on board with that. And so I guess the secret sauce, I'd say, is working hard at something that you're truly passionate about. And I'm not naturally somebody that likes to fundraise or go out and like, it's the last thing that I enjoy doing. But I'm realizing the importance of an invitation, the importance of creating an environment and explaining a problem that people can be part of the solution. And there's a lot of people, even close friends, that were interested, but until they were invited, they never took that step to engage. And so I think that's something that I've learned in some ways, or in some situations, in maybe the hard way. But yeah, just the importance of inviting people into something that's bigger than all of us, because just like them, I'm still learning. So,
man, as you're talking, I'm trying to find these notes I took. I'm studying philanthropy and nonprofit studies at uni now that I've come back to Australia, and that's kind of my little way to kind of, hey, I started a charity a few years ago, and it's hard work. I thought you were going to give me the secret to your success so that I could just somehow, apply that to what I'm trying to, build here with our work amongst refugees that are settling here in Australia. But I found this quote from my studies, right? What is fundraising? What is this ability, which is a big part of obviously what you're doing, right? Is creating the resources, making those available and putting them into places that serve those in great need. And it says fundraising is the process of enabling people to act on their values. And it's kind of what you were saying, right? Like, people want to make a difference. There's a lot of people that, if we're presented with the horrific examples and stories of injustice going on in our world, whether it be through human trafficking, or whether it be through racism and injustice, or whether it be through homelessness or education disparities or disabilities, people that are, whatever the injustice is, people want to be able to make those things right. They want to be able to act on that. And our ability to be like, you know what, I'm going to devote myself to creating these opportunities that enable people to actually do something. And, whenever I'm like, oh, do I have to put the ask out? Do I have to create another opportunity so that we can just keep operating and fund, as a charity? I'm reminded by that's what I'm doing. Man, it's really challenging. There is no easy way to kind of do the work I find of nonprofit, kind of the organizational side of things. But it sounds like you've got a great team. You've got some really strong relationships on the ground in the places where you work, which is huge. Can you, is there any other thoughts made on that that come to mind?
Yeah, I guess, well, I can share, I guess, a bit of what a bit of the struggle, or a bit of the difficult.
Please do.
Something that I'm learning. I got on the last flight out of Nepal in March. I found out a couple of weeks ago that had I not got on that flight, I would have,
because of coronavirus, right? They would have
yeah,
shut up. Oh my gosh. Okay.
yeah. So the airport's still closed.
Mm.
Anyways, I got home from that, and we had planned out our whole year. We had, over 40 events planned. We had people signed up for things. A lot of our strategy for the year was large group gatherings.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
200 plus people.
Mm.
We had, yeah, we had a lot of momentum, if I could say that, in March, and came home, quarantined for a couple of weeks. When I was allowed out of my house, I was thinking, what are we going to do? We've launched this charity,
Mm.
and now everything has changed. All of our plans have
Mm.
been canceled. All of the strategy, all the ideas that we thought were so good,
Mm.
uh, had to stop.
Mm.
And then I got a phone call from a project that we were supposed to start supporting next year, saying, "Hey, our funding has been cut. We're going to have to start moving kids out of our homes. Can you help?"
Oh man.
And I said yes, and I didn't think about it.
Mm.
And it was an emotional response. And I went home and I said to my wife, "I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to
Mm.
survive this month, let alone be able to help more people."
Mm.
And April was our, sorry, that happened beginning of April. April ended up being our largest giving month that
You're
we've had.
kidding. Wow.
And it was in that moment at the end of the month when I'm looking through things and realizing we're able to meet all of the commitments we have to the kids in our care,
Hmm.
that I realized that it's
Come
all be
on. Mm.
and and my like and I think for me it's like, sure, there's difficulty. I mean, there's the fight against injustices. It's like the odds are stacked against you, it
Mm.
seems so often.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there's a much more optimistic side to see that that God's in control, that
Mm.
that people are incredible at collaborating and working together. Like what
Right.
you said about um, appealing to the, like the morality of people. People want to
Yeah.
do good, they really do, and
Yes.
that's what we were able to see. I mean, it's just a snapshot into some things that have happened, but people really band together for something that's greater than all of us. And so, yeah,
Mm.
we've been on a roller coaster of, difficulty and then triumph, sometimes in the same day.
Mm.
But that's really been the story of our year. And so, yeah, I'm super grateful, to be able to walk through that journey, and know that ultimately
Mm.
we're able to be an ally and do what we said we wanted to do, just
Yeah.
to resource these incredible people that are on the front lines providing care
Yeah.
for kids. So,
Man, if only people saw. I mean, it's the same with our personal Instagrams or whatever social media. It always looks
yeah,
good on the outside, but the struggle, the fight, the what goes on behind the scenes, man, is real. It's hard,
yeah,
and man, it reminds me of another friend of mine who launched his whole campaign, was launching his whole fundraising campaign the week before everything shut down with the coronavirus. And on
yeah,
this particular platform, believe it or not, I mean, people were telling him, quit it, like just launch it another time. Now is just obviously not the
yeah,
time. There's so much uncertainty. On this particular fundraising kind of share investment platform, their project was they were their project was the fastest to reach their goal than any other project
wow,
has existed previously, and they
wow,
raised like I think double what their goal was,
wow,
and in a time when you think there's no way people are going to give, there's no way people are going to get behind this, but the truth of the matter is, I think that we do want to fight
yeah,
for what is true, what is good, what is right in this world, And I think we do people a disservice when we kind of write people off and say, you're not going to want to get behind and support this. You're not going to want to make a difference. And it's, I have to tell myself, no, you believe in what you're doing. You're making a difference. You're doing all that you can to make a difference. And there's a heck of a lot of people that want to make a difference too. And they're grateful that you're in there in the gap, so to speak, making those opportunities available. But it does require a lot of soul searching, man. Like our largest, for You Belong Australia, our big key event is a huge welcome picnic every time refugees come into this country, and we have upwards of 300-400 people at these events. And not only have the refugees stopped coming in because of all the flights and everything that's happened, but which is, gut-wrenching that we are not able to bring these families that are just now waiting in limbo again because of what's going on in the world. And families stay separated. But, the main kind of welcoming, hospitable key event that we have has suddenly had to come to a screeching halt. But, we've been grateful that we have an amazing team that's was able to adjust and get more personal and do house visits a lot more regularly, and people responded. People just, and it's kind of been a more I think we've had more impact and more one-on personal touch with a lot of these families than we would have done had we just kind of kept things going the way we were.
Yeah, that's really incredible, and I think that's the heart. The little I know of you, is the heart behind what you do is to create those personal connections and really genuine relationships. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I have just a phenomenal team. We're getting away for our retreat in a week. It's time they're coming down, and we're going to be getting together and reiterating, the importance of just what we do on a one-on-one basis, the relationships that we form. And looking forward to that. You've been working on a documentary, and there's an opportunity that people can actually even host a screening of it and watch it and get more informed and understand what's going on. Can you tell me a bit more about this project?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's another kind of miraculous story. We had one of the young ladies from our homes that's come through recovery. She was trafficked at 12 and rescued at 16, and she's 26 now. She's working on her degree in social work, and she came up to me and said, can you share my story? I want to help. We need to, increase our capacity and, get some more homes running, and I want to help do that. And so, I came back to Canada after talking with her, and I was talking with a bunch of friends, and somebody believed in her and said, I'll seed the money to start that film. And so we shot, we had 100 of her peers reenact her story of being trafficked. And it's quite powerful, and it's there's no professional actors, but it's a short film. So we had been screening that in film festivals and all over in live events, and that's all been canceled now because of COVID. But we're relaunching it digitally in September, and so it'll be available for people to see online, to sign up. There's no cost or anything to watch it. It's really about raising awareness of what this process looks like. It's educational, and it's not sensationalistic. It's our huge priority as an organization is to make sure everything has the dignity of the individual is utmost priority. So it's really informative. So you'll be able to see that on our website or on our social channels. That we'll be launching that in September. And I'd encourage you to watch it, to share it with people that are passionate about this issue, or maybe are looking to understand the process more, because it walks through how she was recruited and into her being trafficked and then rescued. So it's done as an informative piece for maybe Western audiences, but it's also used mostly now as a prevention tool. So we've just translated it into 11 other languages and are showing it in rural communities throughout Asia primarily.
Wow, man, it sounds incredible. So one of the other things I really wanted to get into you about was this event that happened to you personally on one of your trips. I think you know which one I'm talking about, because I remember when we first met and you were telling me, I could not believe it. Do you mind sharing that story for our guests today?
I'm assuming you're talking about my hospital trip.
In India, right?
It was in Greece.
Oh no, in Greece. Okay.
Yeah, it was in Greece. It was, I was with a group of people helping, kind of amidst like the beginning of the refugee crisis that was happening in
Greece
Eastern
was
Europe
being
and in
flooded.
Greece, being flooded. And so I was there for a few weeks in a refugee camp, and man, what incredible and heartbreaking experience. And I won't get into all of those details. But I'd never been to a hospital in my life, really don't get sick. And I started feeling a little bit uncomfortable at the end of my trip, and we were flying home back to Canada, back to Vancouver on the West Coast. And we left Greece. We were flying through Frankfurt, Germany. And I got on the plane and I was a little bit out of it, and I had a nurse traveling with me. I had a bunch of different friends with me, and everyone's like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just let's get you home. Healthcare is free in Canada. Let's get there." And so, when we landed in Frankfurt, I was totally incoherent. I just had motor function. I ended up walking out of the airport. The rest of the group that was with me went onto the gate. They're like, "Oh, we think he must have," I don't know what they were thinking. But I walked out of that airport thinking I was in Vancouver, and I was in Frankfurt. I got on a city bus, passed out on a city bus, woke up somewhere, and it was early on a Saturday morning. And so all I remember, I don't have all the memories, but I was walking around trying to find help. And the first doors that I went up to that were open was this little hair salon. And so I walked in, and there was these three German ladies. I didn't speak German. They didn't speak English, but I looked scary. My whole face was bloated and red and purple. And I didn't know this until I saw photos after, but they just pushed a chair towards me and said, "Sit down." And then paramedics came and took me, and I ended up being in the hospital for 7 days in quarantine in intensive care. And and the doctor said to me, had I made that connecting flight, I would have died about 3 hours into the flight because my temperature was 107.5 Fahrenheit.
Oh my gosh! Can you even get that high and still be alive?
I don't know how I made it. I have like the report from the ambulance, from the paramedics.
Gosh.
So I'm lucky to be here, and I think it was.
What was it?
It was Stephen Johnson syndrome, they think.
Okay.
They're not sure. They didn't want to like give me a firm diagnosis because the camp that I was staying in had about 50 different countries represented in it. And so
you just obviously picked something up there.
Something from anywhere, yeah.
Goodness me.
Yeah. Yeah, so a wild experience for sure.
Man, you are a lucky man. But, in a sense, I mean, it kind of does highlight, this, if you want to put yourselves in situations that you're trying to make a difference, it's not always going to be the most safe, sanitized life. People always used to wonder the same thing about our family. What do you think you're doing? Putting your family at risk, living in this country and doing what you're doing. Hey, but I don't know about you. I don't think I've ever done anything that has felt meaningful or impactful in my life unless I've kind of taken a risk. I put myself in a situation, where there's potential for things not to go perfectly. But man, I cannot believe every time I hear that story. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been great chatting. I'd love to. I'd love you to give me me. I'm learning a bit more about what Ally's got going, and I know you've got a few kind of events with I think a bike ride or a move for freedom event coming up. Is there anything exciting on the horizon for what you're doing that we could kind of talk about as we round out the interview today?
Yeah, we've got we're always trying to come up with new ideas just to get people involved in their own community and what they're doing. And so we always point people obviously to look at organizations like us that are close to them and get involved with them. Mm-hmm. And then, we've got an event called Move for Freedom coming up, which is just encourage people to get out and do something with their friends and talk about this as an issue. And we've got people taking pledges and doing crazy things. I'm going to bike 160 kilometers, and I haven't been on a bike.
The question is, are you going to wear Lycra? That's the question.
That is the question. I'll get back to you.
Full bodysuit Lycra. There's not just the top. I mean, you got to go. Biking is huge here. Everyone rides bikes. Okay. I mean, and ironically, it's usually 40, 50-year-old men with their bikes sipping lattes at 7 a.m. after they've done their little social ride. But I would love to see you in a full bodysuit Lycra.
I'll send you some pictures.
Please do.
Other than that, the film is the big thing we got coming up this fall.
Okay.
The film's called The 12,000. And so the 12,000.com will get you to wherever that info is. And then, for everything else, it's on our website, allyglobal.org. Try to keep you posted on things that we have going on. But man, I'm just so grateful for you and for this time and for the work that you're doing in Australia. But beyond that, just how you've modeled your life and even influenced me from Iraq or the US and now Australia. I'm super thankful.
Oh, thanks, Randy, mate. I tell, this season, this whole first season of the podcast is catching up with people I consider friends, people who I know aren't just out there talking the talk, but are in there doing it and making it. So I'm glad that this is a great excuse, really, just to catch up with you, mate, and even to learn more about what you're doing. You feel like you can read the websites and follow on Instagram, but just catching up with you in person, mate, and hearing about the struggle. I feel like I've got a brother in arms who knows the difficulty of trying to run nonprofits and make this stuff work. But so it's like a little camaraderie group here, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Cheering you on from afar. I've got one last question for you, which I ask all my guests, and it's as simple. It's, why does justice matter to you?
Yeah, I think it's the thing that should be the heartbeat of our culture, that we're called to care for other people. And if we don't lean into that, I think I lose purpose. So it matters to me because I think my faith has called me to make it a priority. And so I'm learning.
Yeah, you mentioned before in a form that I get guests to fill out. There's this verse in the Bible that says pure religion is to care for the widow and care for the orphan, and that's a verse that I know has impacted me and deeply. The centrality. What is it to have faith? What is it to call yourself a follower of Jesus, or to truly have a Christian or whatever you identify as, if it's not centered around caring for the vulnerable and those in need in our community. And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Alrighty, mate. Enjoy Canada. Cheerio.